the bedroom tax foisted upon us and where they're privatising the Royal Mail. So all of the evidence since devolution tells us that decisions are better made in Scotland by the people who live and work here.
In that case, why do you want the pound?
Well, the current evidence tells us that many decisions made at Westminster are bad for Scotland because there's a number of things, including the pound, which we have as much claim to as London. It's not George Osborne's currency, it's as much ours as theirs, and we're entitled to keep the pound if that's what we want to do.
But isn't that rather like saying husband and wife divorce and you're still going to have the same bank account? That's not quite the same thing,
No,
is it?
because there's huge powers of taxation, of spending, of capital borrowing, of competition policy, of regulation, of energy policy. These are the things which would come from London to Scotland on the economy. And then there's all the other questions like social security or whether you should have a privatised Royal Mail or not. These are decisions made in London which we think would be better taken here in Scotland.
This is obviously a big moment for you. You've been working for this your entire political life, for independence. But if you'd got it 10 years ago, it's the Scottish taxpayer who'd be bailing out RBS and HBOS, isn't it? And it's much better, is it not, for the whole country that the burden is shared?
No, the RBS had about 90% plus of its UK assets were in London. If RBS had got into trouble, and let's hope that Scottish regulators would do a rather better job than London ones, and Scottish chancellors would do a rather better job than Alistair Darling did. But then it would have been a joint effort, because it would have to be, because RBS had to be saved because the integrity of the London financial system would have collapsed. So it would have been a joint effort to save it. That is why we're not against, whether it's sterling or whether it's cooperation and a whole variety of things, we're not against that aspect. What we don't want is the politics and economics of Scotland dictated by a government which we usually don't vote for.
Well,
I mean, I'm 58 years old, Gavin. 2/3 of my life, Scotland's had governments in London that we didn't vote for. That's no longer democratically acceptable.
Why do you want to debate some of this with David Cameron? I mean, he's got no part in this, has he? This is a debate about Scotland's future. Scottish people are voting for it, not David Cameron.
This was set up with the Edinburgh Agreement, signed by the Prime Minister in London and the First Minister of Scotland. Our signatures are on the document to set up the referendum. It's his government who has edicts all the time. The Chancellor's dispatched north to tell us what a disaster independence would be. He's the guy who's imposing the bedroom tax and privatising the Royal Mail. These are the issues we need to debate. Therefore, it's right and proper that the first debate takes place between the Prime Minister from London and the First Minister of Scotland.
But isn't that convenient for you for the reasons that you've just said, which is you wouldn't vote for a Conservative government. Many people in Scotland don't vote Conservative. That's why there's only one MP. And that is missing the point of what the debate is about, surely, which is about Scotland and Scottish people will be deciding.
Well, the leading protagonist of the Union is the Prime Minister. It's his name on the Edinburgh Agreement. Then why is the Prime Minister not prepared as the leading protagonist? I mean, the House of Commons, House of Lords have endless committees currently debating and telling Scots tablets from on high about what we can and can't do. Why can't the Prime Minister come and debate these policies with me as First Minister here in Scotland? And then, of course, a range of other debates, not just between politicians, but conversations with the people will follow from that. The fact that the leading exponent of the Union won't debate is surely an indication of the fear in the No campaign, that exposes the essential question of why doesn't Scotland get the government and the policies that we vote for as opposed to the ones that someone else votes for.
A final thought. People all day have been saying to us, we need more information. People who've not made up their minds, we need to know whether we will be better off or not. Now, when are you going to provide that information?
Well, a lot of information's already out. I mean, in terms of welfare policies, for example, or the Fiscal Commission on the currency options, a huge detail of information. But of course, the White Paper in November is an important landmark as well, because that is the prospectus on which people will ask people to vote. Now, let's remember that leading exponent union has conceded that Scotland can be an independent, successful nation. So that leaves the choice with the democratic alternatives open to the people of Scotland. And on that, the decisions are better made for Scotland by people who live and work in Scotland. We can win this campaign.
First Minister, thank you very much. And obviously, it's going to be a very interesting year, not just for the people of Scotland, but for all of us throughout the United Kingdom. Now back to Hugh in London.
Gavin, thank you very much. Gavin Esler there with First Minister Alex Salmond, confirming, of course, that referendum taking place a year today on the 18th of September 2014. A look at the headlines here on BBC News at 5:45. Nick Clegg has told the Lib Dem conference that only a coalition government can sustain the economic recovery and that an outright win for either Conservatives or Labour would be damaging for Britain. A court in Bradford has heard how the body of a 4-year-old boy was found in his mother's bedroom almost 2 years after he died. A group of MPs has called for the number of nurses on duty in every hospital ward in England to be published daily to address patient concerns following recent scandals. On the financial markets, here's how the FTSE 100